and I'm Tina Olke, and your instructor for PSYC155. Today we're going to get to talk about some psychological defense mechanisms. Chapter 13 is exciting, isn't it? It delves into the theories of personality, the why of who we are. You'll read about Freud's fascinating theory of the id, the ego, and the superego. You'll read about Jung and Erikson, humanism, behaviorism, and even the trait theories. I recommend that you read the chapter carefully and do check out the full PowerPoints that can be found on the resources page of the classroom for an extra assistance for the chapter. As always, ask questions if you have them. For this mini lesson, we'll be talking about the defense mechanisms, how we protect ourselves when we're feeling threatened or from harm. Defense mechanisms are unconscious reactions that we use to protect ourselves from painful stresses and anxiety. There are several mechanisms that I'll be explaining to you. Perhaps you can recognize some of them. Denial is a defense mechanism in which a person refuses to acknowledge or recognize a threatening situation. The person might refuse to accept the truth or reality of a fact or experience. No, I'm just a social smoker. Or you might protect your self-esteem by failing to acknowledge your harmful behavior. Denial can also be used by victims of trauma or disasters. Repression is a defense in which a person refuses to consciously remember that threatening or unacceptable event, instead pushing those events into the unconscious mind. Repression is highly motivated forgetting. People generally and naturally want to forget about painful things. Examples of repression include forgetting to go to the dentist appointment or the meeting that you had with the professor to talk about your grades. Or it can be something such as forgetting the car accident you had in which you were to blame. Rationalization is a mechanism in which a person invents acceptable excuses for unacceptable behavior. You would be rationalizing if after cheating on your exam you said, "It's okay, everyone does it." Projection is when you attribute your own thoughts, feelings, and motives onto another. For example, if I walked into a room wearing a shirt with a small stain on it that I was really self-conscious of and noticed that everyone looked at me when I walked into the room, I might think that everyone in the room would be looking at my stain. In a more advanced example, say that you felt that one person thinks of you as an inferior, that she is superior to you. Now, all of her actions are going to be regarded by you as her viewing you and treating you as an inferior. Displacement is a redirection of feelings from a threatening target to a less threatening one. This might happen if your boss gives you a hard time at work, and when you come home, you slam the door, you yell at whomever is handy. Or after a parental scolding, the older child takes it out on the younger child. Reaction formation is a defense mechanism in which a person forms an opposite emotional or behavioral reaction to the way he or she really feels in order to keep those true feelings hidden from themselves and others. The science of reaction formation is the exaggerated quality of the opposite behavior. For example, trying to be really sugary nice to mask hostility. Another example takes us to the romantic playing field. When lust becomes scorn, reaction formation is occurring. Regression is a defense mechanism when a person falls back on childlike patterns of responding in reaction to stressful situation. Road rage is an example of regression. Another is when we bury ourselves under the blankets when we've had a really bad day. Identification is when a person tries to become like someone else to deal with anxiety and boost their self-esteem. A freshman might join a fraternity to boost his self-esteem. Compensation or substitution is when a person makes up for deficiencies in one area by becoming superior in another. An overweight woman might go on an eating binge when she feels neglected by her husband. A person who doesn't have any friends might throw themselves into schoolwork. And the final defense mechanism is sublimation. This occurs when a person channels socially unacceptable impulses and urges into socially acceptable behavior. For example, aggressive urges might be rechanneled by taking up taekwondo or football. For today, this concludes what we'll be covering in our PowerPoint mini lesson. The reflective log assignment asks you to suggest future research designed to advance knowledge on the concepts in the chapter or to apply the material learned in this chapter to a current news issue or to experiences in your own life. There's so much in the chapter that I didn't get to cover, but I hope that I left you with some things to consider throughout this mini lesson. I'd like for you to consider and to let me know what you think about defense mechanisms. Do you recognize any of them more than others? Well, what about the rest of the chapter? Freud's theory of personality is sure to bring up a lot of comments whenever it is brought up. What are your thoughts? Or maybe you'd like to comment on what theory you leaned more towards than others. Or maybe you've seen something in the news recently that relates back to Chapter 13. There are a lot of ideas out there from Chapter 13 that I think that I'd like to discuss, and I don't know about you. I'd like to hear from you, and I hope that you have fun doing it. I can't wait to read your logs this week.